There is a man in Nashville who could eat anywhere in the world, and every Sunday morning he chooses a cracked vinyl booth in the poorest part of town. Nobody understood why, not for a long time. His name is Richard, 58 years old. He owns hotels, he owns restaurants, he owns commercial property across 3 states. His name is on buildings. His phone rings with numbers most people will never see in their lifetime. But every Sunday, no driver, no assistant, no fancy watch, Richard gets into a plain car, drives himself across town, and walks through the door of a little diner called Bev's. The sign out front is faded, the floors are worn smooth. The coffee is served in thick ceramic mugs that have been washed 10,000 times. A full breakfast costs $6, and Richard orders the same thing every single week. Bev, the 60-year-old owner, has his coffee poured before he even sits down. She doesn't make a fuss, he doesn't make a fuss. He slides into his booth, nods at the construction workers at the counter, asks the elderly man by the window how his knee is doing, smiles at the young mother trying to keep her 3 kids from knocking over the syrup. He knows their names, they know his. Nobody thinks too hard about it. He just belongs here, in a way that makes no sense if you know what's in his bank account. Then one Sunday, a young woman named Maya walked in. She was a journalist, 26 years old, sharp eyes, notebook already open. She had heard rumors that one of Nashville's wealthiest men spent his Sunday mornings in this diner, and she wanted to know why. She spotted him right away. Plain jacket, simple shoes, no jewelry. Just a man with coffee and scrambled eggs looking out the window like he had nowhere else to be. She walked over. She stood at the edge of his booth. She said, "Mr. Richard, do you mind if I sit down?" He looked up at her, took a slow sip of his coffee. Then he said, "Only if you're eating something." She sat down, she ordered, and then she asked him the question everyone in Nashville had been wondering. Why here, every week? Why here? Richard was quiet for a moment. He looked down at his coffee cup. Then he looked back at her, and he began to talk. 30 years ago, Richard was not Richard, the hotel owner. He was just Richard, 28 years old, a young father, trying his best. He lost his job and his apartment in the same week, not because he was lazy, not because he gave up. Sometimes life just hits you with everything at once, and there is nothing you can do but try to stay standing. He had $4 in his pocket. He was sleeping in his car in a parking lot 2 blocks from this very diner. He was embarrassed. He was scared. He had a little girl at home staying with her grandmother, and he did not know how he was going to take care of her. He did not know how he was going to take care of himself. One morning he walked into this diner because it was the cheapest place nearby and he needed something to eat. He sat down in this same booth. He ordered what he could afford, and a young waitress, 30 years old, dark hair, quick smile, brought him a full plate. Eggs, toast, bacon, home fries, more than he ordered. He looked up, confused. She leaned down, quiet so nobody else could hear, and she said, "No charge today, honey." And she walked away like it was nothing, like she did it every day, like she wasn't handing a drowning man a lifeline. She didn't make him feel small. She didn't make him feel like a charity case. She just fed him like he mattered, because he did. That was Bev. Richard got a construction job the following Monday. He worked hard. He kept going. He built something, slowly, painfully, stubbornly, out of nothing. And he never forgot that breakfast. Every year since he made his first $1 million, Richard has quietly made an arrangement with Bev. Every single Sunday, every customer who walks through that door eats for free. Their bill is covered, fully, completely, before they even ask for it. No announcement, no plaque on the wall, no press release, just a standing instruction, a quiet act, week after week, year after year. The construction workers eating before their shift, the elderly couple on a fixed income, the young mother with the 3 kids, every one of them walks out of that diner not knowing that a man in a plain jacket sitting in the corner booth just paid for their meal. They just think the prices are low. Nobody knows except Bev. Maya sat very still. Her pen had stopped moving. She looked at Richard and said, "Why didn't you ever tell anyone?" Richard picked up his coffee mug, wrapped both hands around it, thought for a moment. Then he said, "Bev didn't tell anyone either. That's why it worked." Maya wrote the article. It went everywhere, every city, every screen. People cried reading it on their lunch breaks, on the subway, in their cars. Bev read it sitting at her kitchen table early in the morning before the diner opened. She put her hand over her mouth. She cried the way people cry when something they did quietly for years suddenly becomes seen. Not because they wanted the attention, but because love, when it's finally named out loud, has a way of breaking you open in the best way. Richard called her that same morning. She picked up the phone. She couldn't even speak at first. He said, "Now we're even. Here is what I want you to take with you today. You don't need an audience to do something beautiful. The most powerful thing you can do with whatever success you reach, big or small, is use it to quietly pay back the grace the world showed you when you had nothing. Because someone, somewhere, at some point in your life said no charge today. Maybe not with money, maybe with time, maybe with a kind word when you were drowning, maybe with a door they held open that changed your whole direction. Real generosity doesn't need a spotlight. Real generosity doesn't need a thank you. Real generosity remembers and then keeps the table open for the next person who walks in hungry. Be like Richard. Be like Bev. Do good quietly. Do it faithfully. Do it like it's nothing. Because to someone sitting in that booth, it's everything.